So when did the first thoughts of becoming a priest enter your mind?
I would say that came up while I was on mission trip in 2009 with my home parish, Prince of Peace. And so we ended up going on this trip, and it was a mission of presence, right? And in this mission trip, I remember just experiencing just a lot of feelings of consolation, a lot of experiences of God and the people. We always talk about the treasures of the church being, whether you think of it as, all the beautiful things that we have in the church, but really the coffers of the church were there in Guatemala to me. Just the people, they treasure God and the faith so much, even in the midst of turmoil and war. So,
how old were you at this point?
I'm not very good with math, so I'm going to go with, let's see, it must have been around...
Were you a teenager? High school?
I just finished high school.
You just finished high school. So all throughout high school, you had no idea of what you were... Of the possibility of becoming a priest. It didn't even enter your mind.
It did not. I did have a friend on my senior year. He was my best friend. We had talked about colleges. At that point, the college question came up, obviously, for all of us. And so it was so where are you going? And he finally told me, I'm actually going to go to the University of Dallas. I'm like, cool. What are you going to do? I'm going to be a priest. It's seminary, Holy Trinity Seminary.
Oh.
And then from there, it was just like, hey, I'm Catholic. Like, obviously, we knew that, I guess. So tell me more about that. And then he kind of took me under his wing. He kind of really fostered that vocation, I guess you can say. I would call him once a week, right? And say, what did you learn this week? He would tell me all the philosophy and some theological things. And then he was like, okay, now it's time to teach you how to pray. So he would mail me like a little prayer pocketbook so I could have it in my pocket. And that's kind of how he started. He was like, you should also go to the Triduum, right, for Holy Week. Like, you should start doing these things. Which is funny because when I told him about the mission trip, he's like, I don't think you're ready for that.
He said that?
Yeah, he did.
Because you were at that point sort of just like a casual Catholic.
Correct.
Just on occasions, not every Sunday. And then so this mission trip, how did you get into that?
I was sitting in the pews, honestly, literally. I was sitting in the pews in the back somewhere, and I remember them talking about it, making an announcement. We're going on this mission trip. There's an info session coming up. If you're under the age of 18, bring a parent or just come with somebody to get more information.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at parents one day, and this is me, right, back then thinking, these Christian Catholics, they just do all these awesome trips and they travel the world. I love traveling. Like, I finally found this is so dumb, right? I found this connection of traveling, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to find out more about this. I want to go. Like, I think I'm 18. I can do these things now. This is cool.
So it was more of the travel that appealed to you rather than the mission itself.
Yes, I had no idea what the word mission even meant at the time, and boy, was I in for a treat. I went to that info session and I found out what it was, and I was just like, ooh, I am way in over my head. Like, this is not the crowd that I thought it was going to be. Like, it's not like a travel agency where you meet with people who are going to travel together kind of thing. No, it was talking about doing real things and real work about the faith. And it was a bit intimidating for me at the beginning.
Were you imagining like people like backpacking across the,
certain
parts of the country?
I think I was thinking more, probably that, but probably a little bit more formal, just, being bussed over to certain places, kind of like pilgrimage of sorts kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were imagining a pilgrimage, but it turned out you were headed to do a lot of work, huh?
Correct.
So who is this friend that talked to you? Is he still in the seminary?
He is not. So he did leave. He discerned his vocation outside as well. He was very influential for many years. And then eventually when I took a break as well, we actually ended up moving in together for the summer that I had just left. And then we realized, like most friendships, I guess, that you kind of grow apart. We had grown apart. We have kind of done enough.
Yeah, that's interesting that, he goes into the seminary, but he discerns out. But maybe the whole reason, maybe God's plan for him to go in the seminary was him to influence you, to send you those prayer booklets and all of that.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So tell us more about this mission trip. What was it all about?
So it wasn't, I guess, what I would even now look at a mission trip of like going to build something or going to create projects of sorts. It was more of a mission of presence. So Guatemala had just undergone the civil war, and so they were just in turmoil. The Catholic Church kind of pulled out, and so they were kind of left without the faith or the visible signposts and people. And so, this is also just people who kind of were... A lot of these soldiers, a lot of the guerrillas kind of really killed off all the men as well,
And
because they
I'm
had all gone to
sure
war.
some atrocities against priests as well, huh?
Correct. There was a lot of them who were being persecuted. The church was being persecuted, which is why the bishop had said, I need y'all to pull out.
Wow.
I mean,
for the safety of the people. Wow.
And so what ended up happening is everybody kind of went up to the hills. They hid in remote areas, and you know, years passed, the war ended, and they had nothing but just dead bodies around to bury.
Wow.
And so that was kind of what in some ways we kind of stepped into. By the time it was open again and safer for Christian communities to come in and evangelize,
yes,
we were probably one of the last ones to come back. We just didn't realize what the situation was. And so you had all these other Christian people, communities come in and, you know, do their job.
Yeah.
And so then when we come in, we're just coming in again, full force, reestablishing where we were, letting the community know, hey, we're here. Which, to our surprise, they were already doing a lot of catechetical things on their own. They kind of had built their own community of faith to foster what little they could remember and have.
Yes.
And we're talking people who are still indigenous too, people who still speak in, you know, in their own kind of native tongue, indigenous tongue. So it was kind of interesting for me to do mission trip there, because even in my being bilingual, English, Spanish, I would prepare a lesson plan in English, translate it into Spanish, and then that had to be translated once more into Quiche.